Peter Obi, respectfully, you are wrong. Yes, the Supreme Court has ruled that the matters of leadership of a political party is the internal affairs of that political party. And you even have the Electoral Act 2026 in Section 83 talk about this, that the leadership of a political party is the internal affairs of that political party. I am saying you're wrong because I feel that if this your statement that the leadership of a party is internal affairs of a party, if it is something that you truly believe, then I am suspecting that it is the reason people around you have allowed you to be misled into either leaving a party or joining a party on the wrong premise. Yes, because the belief now that you have formed is that the matter of leadership of a political party is the internal affairs of that political party. So, you just believe that, and it's a question to you too. Does it mean that because the matters of leadership of a political party is internal affairs of a political party, does it mean that, one, INEC has no power to interfere? Two, does it mean that the leadership of that party can now be done anyhow? Is that what it means? If you, Peter Obi, thinks that is what it means, then I understand the source, the root cause of the problems you have had in all the political parties you have gone to. But here is the thing, and why I feel it is important that you understand that you are wrong in this opinion. You can jump at statements made by people like Alpha Mosigwe and lawyers, MBA, calling on lawyers who take matters of leadership of political parties to court to act with caution or they will be sanctioned. Yes, they can say that. But based on the same Electoral Act, Sections 83, fully, you discover that it is not sufficient to just hide behind the Supreme Court ruling or the Electoral Act to say, the matters of leadership of a political party is the internal affairs of that political party. It's not enough. Because like we have seen some lawyers explain, and it stands to reason, the Electoral Act, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, they are not documents that are only meant for lawyers. They are documents that every Nigerian must understand and should understand. The question of being a lawyer or not being a lawyer will only arise when it now comes to court proceedings, legal proceedings, representations, and all that. But as far as the law is concerned, the Constitution, the Electoral Act, any literate Nigerian that can read and write, that can read and comprehend what they read, should be able to interpret what the Constitution and the Electoral Act says. Now, here is why it is important for you, Mr. Peter Obi, to understand that it is not enough to simply say the leadership of a party is the internal affairs of that party. Why do you think that before a political party is registered, one of the conditions stipulated by the Constitution and the Electoral Umpire INEC is that the party must have a constitution? The party must have a constitution. Why do you think that is? What is the purpose of a constitution for a political party? INEC is the umpire. It is the referee. Yes. Now, imagine that you have a referee in a match. You have two opposing sides, they are playing. It is assumed that the referee should be neutral. But what happens when a player in a particular team, say Arsenal, does not understand the offside rule? What happens? What does the umpire do? The player is a very fantastic player, very fit, knows how to score goals, but then the player violates the offside rule, what does the referee do? If you have a defender trying to defend his goal and a player comes and jumps and kicks that defender, what does the referee do? Does the referee say, oh, because the internal affairs of a club, it should not be, the referee should not interfere into the internal affairs, he should not give the player red card, or should not raise his flag and declare offside? There is a reason why INEC is the umpire, and there's a reason why political parties have constitutions. You see the Supreme Court ruling and the section 83(5) that is being quoted, that the leadership of a political party is the internal affairs of that political party. The reason for it is simple. It is based on the fact that political party leadership are expected to respect the constitution of their party. They are expected to know the rules and regulation guiding how party leadership and party affairs are run. And because you have a constitution that is registered with INEC, in fact, you are supposed to, within 30 days of changing your constitution as a political party, register that constitution with INEC. Because that constitution is registered with INEC, INEC understands how the party is supposed to run its affairs. Now, if the party runs its affairs in accordance with the constitution of that party, INEC has no business interfering in the internal affairs of that party. But when you have a situation whereby the key players in a political party totally disregard the constitution of that party and they do things that contravene the Electoral Act, then INEC has the power to intervene, and even the courts have the power to intervene. Look at the issue of the leadership in the ADC. Now, there's supposed to be a consensus. Consensus is allowed everywhere. If the transition from Ralph Wonsu to David Mark happened in a consensus, consensus sounds easy, but it's actually very, very difficult. If it happened in a consensus, what is a consensus? It means that everybody in the party has to agree. If it happens in a consensus, right, and nobody complains, then the matter will not go out. It will not go to the hearing of INEC. It will not go to the hearing of the courts. Even if the consensus violates the constitution of that party. Now, here is where it becomes a problem. If the consensus violates the constitution of that party, and then only one member out of a party of maybe 1,000 members, only one member now says, no, even though 99% of you agreed to do this thing that you have done is wrong based on our constitution. That one member can approach INEC. That one member can approach the court, and the court will have jurisdiction insofar as the court is able to establish that a breach of the constitution of the party has been made. So when you come out and say, oh, INEC has no power to interfere in internal affairs of a party, or the court has no power to act on the internal affairs of the party, it is not true. If what Nafiu Bala Gombe is complaining about is true, that he did not resign, and that his signature was forged, and that he is the rightful person to be acting chairman, if those are anything to go by, if you look at the transition from Ralph Wonsu to David Mark, let's be honest with ourselves. Does he follow the constitution of the African Democratic Congress? You have heard people like Honorable Leke Abejide come out to say and even expose certain conditions for being chairman of a political party, that you have to have been a member of the ADC for 2 years. And it's clear that on the day that David Mark and Aregbesola became chairman and national secretary, that was the day of joining the party. In fact, Nafiu Bala Gombe claims that what the National Working Committee was told was that they were going to receive new members into the party and that the party, ADC, was going to be adopted as a coalition party. That is the impression that he's giving now. Whether that is true or not, whether it is because he didn't get the position he was promised, whether he didn't get a share of the alleged 1.7 billion naira that was issued for the party to be handed over, all those are circumstantial. Now, what he has come out to say is that he didn't resign. Now, even if it is only Nafiu Bala that is coming out to raise objection, so far as the constitution of the African Democratic Congress was not obeyed, the conditions were not fully met, he can approach the court, he can approach INEC, and the courts and INEC have legal grounds to act. INEC is the referee. In this case, INEC can act to say, look, we have your constitution with us. Yes, you invited us. We assumed that you had a consensus. But now somebody is saying, no, there was no consensus. He doesn't agree. And that you did not follow your constitution. You are duty bound to follow your constitution. INEC has the power to issue red cards and yellow cards based on their role as an umpire in the electoral process in Nigeria. Now, even the courts have jurisdiction so far as they have established that, oh, there was a breach of the constitution of the African Democratic Congress. Once they can establish this, the courts have the right, they have jurisdiction to act on any suit emanating therefrom. Let's not be too sentimental and be too blinded. And I hope you listen to me. I am saying this so that when you go to another political party, if you choose to do that, or you choose to remain in the African Democratic Congress, you must understand that your primary responsibility is to make sure that everything that is done in accordance with the constitution of that party. If you do everything in accordance with the constitution of the party, the way you stayed with Abure and then fell out with Abure and then you stayed with Nenadi Usman, if all your actions were guided by the constitution of the Labour Party, I'm sure you wouldn't have left the Labour Party, because staying with the constitution will mean that you are able to get everybody to fall in line and to be on the same page. And it will mean that wherever you stand, being on the side of the constitution of the Labour Party, it will mean that you would have been able to avoid every external influence. Now, many people may say, oh, these my positions, they are outlandish, they are far-fetched. They are not. They are actually simple. It's just that right now in Nigeria, we don't want the truth. We just want our truth. That's what it means. We want our truth. If our friends are the ones doing it, whether it's against the constitution or not, we want to cover our friends, we want to do paddy. But the law does not understand paddy. Or does the law understand paddy? Stand for the truth. Stop saying INEC does not have the power to interfere. They do. They are an umpire. Stop saying the courts do not have the power to interfere. They do. So far as the constitution of the political party is concerned, if it has been breached, then they have jurisdiction. If all that is happening is true, what you need is a political solution. Because if Nafiu Bala Gombe is able to prove his case, if the Dumebi Kachiku group, they are able to prove their case, and it's established that there was a breach in the constitution of the African Democratic Congress during the process of handing over from Ralph Nwosu to David Mark, that there is nothing that you can do. If it is established, sentiments will not save you. Shouting and saying, oh, there's external interference, it will not work. Because the truth of the matter is that the law must be respected. I'm saying this so that you do not lose your opportunity, you do not lose your chance. Change this your perspective now. Change it. It is simply not true.